Welcome into this hour of CBS Sports HQ, and to quote the ever-inspiring Lion King, it is time. It is time that we get Pete Prisco's very first mock draft of the offseason. We will not point out that Ryan Wilson has done 24. Pete Prisco, this is his first one, but it is mighty, and already it is making noise on social media. We are excited to talk about it. Let's welcome in our good friend, senior NFL writer Pete Prisco, draft expert Ryan Wilson. All right, Pete, we get to start with you. This is your first mock draft, and we're going to start with the Jags. And of course, you have him taking Trevor Lawrence. Was there anything in his pro day that maybe changed your mind, even the slightest?
Zero, nothing. Urban Meyer put that pro day together. That tells you all you need to know. He's going to be the first pick. He should be the first pick, and he will change the plight of that franchise for a long time. He's that good. He's generational. He's big. He's strong. He can run. He can make all the throws. And I know he had shoulder surgery, and that's going to be an issue, but he'll be out for 4 or 5 months, and then he'll be back for training camp. I don't think it's going to be a problem. They have to take him. One thing about my mock draft, by the way, these mock drafts before free agency, and Ryan's done 24 of them, he's out of his mind, but these mock drafts before free agency, when you don't know where there's a real hole and what hole might be filled, they're tough to do.
I imagine they are. That is why we have you guys do them. Yeah, Ryan at least is hopefully going to chill out on those a little bit, but he's done a great job so far. All right, let's keep moving on. Let's go to the Jets, and Pete, you have him taking Zach Wilson here. Now, Ryan's had this pick a past couple of times. He's had them taking PENEI, SEWELL. So why go with Wilson? Why a quarterback? And what do you do about Darnold, Pete?
Yeah, I just think when you get a new coach in there at some point, he's going to want to start over. And, you know, the Robert Saleh is going to want his guy in there. Yes, I know Joe Douglas is still there. But again, I think this is a start over from scratch. See what you can get for Sam Darnold, pedal him around, and draft Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's outstanding. You know, there's comparisons around the league to Patrick Mahomes in the way that he throws the football on the move. He's got the quick release and the big arm. I don't think he's that, but he is a kid that has a chance to be a really good quarterback. What do you get for Darnold? That's the question, A. And B, I don't think I would do that, by the way. I'll be honest with you. I think I would stick with Sam Darnold, play him in the system, see how he fares in that 49ers scheme, which I think is really conducive to what he can do, and then go from there. But for this mock, I haven't taken Zach Wilson.
I actually agree, Pete. I like the idea of seeing what you have in Sam Darnold, maybe even trading down from 2 and putting more players around Sam Darnold through the draft and through free agency as well, because they have so much money. But in terms of Zach Wilson, it's funny you mentioned the Patrick Mahomes comparison, because I think few things made you angrier last year when I compared Patrick Mahomes to Jordan Love every chance I got. My comparison for Zach Wilson is more Baker Mayfield coming out of Oklahoma in terms of the arm strength and the athleticism. He's a little better athlete, making a ton of good decisions. He's on the shortest side. He's listed as 6'2". I imagine once we get the tape measure out, he'll be shorter than that. But I mean, the 2020 season, he was outstanding from start to finish. Even that game they lost against Coastal Carolina, it came down to the very last play. And there were very few instances where anything mistake-wise was put on Zach Wilson. He usually made the right read. He usually got the ball out on time. He has the athleticism to get outside and make plays with his feet. So I'm with you. There's a lot to like there. But again, quarterbacks work out maybe 35% of the time in the first round, 40% if you're lucky. You know what you have in Sam Darnold. Put better players around him and see if you can get better from there.
Pete, one quick follow. Would you trade out of this pick?
I would consider it. Absolutely. I would consider it, because if you stick with Sam Darnold, you can get extra picks for somebody that wants to go up and get Zach Wilson. And believe me, the NFL people I've talked to, and I just started on my draft work, they love Zach Wilson. They think the kid has a chance to be special. So, yeah, if you feel like Sam Darnold can be your long-term answer in that offense, then trade down, get some extra picks to somebody who wants to move up and get Zach Wilson.
All right, let's move on to the Dolphins with the 3rd overall pick. Pete Prisco, you have him taking Jamar Chase here. Now, Ryan Wilson admits this is his wide receiver 1, but I don't know if I've ever seen him in a mock this high, at least in some of our mocks. So why here?
Well, I think they need to get outside weapons for Tua Tagovailoa, or if he's the quarterback. Now, if they made a move for Deshaun Watson, they still need to get more weapons. That offense needs to get improved in the passing game, and this kid is special. Again, talking to guys around the league in the early work up to doing my draft work, his name is mentioned first. It wasn't DeVonta Smith and they like DeVonta Smith, but there's concern about the size. There's concern about him being smallish. And when you watch Jamar Chase, he can do so many things. He's a physical kid, and I think he's going to be the first wide receiver taken. And Miami needs to get a guy outside. I know they have some young players that they like. You know, Preston Williams was hurt last year, and they like him, but they need to get a big-time player to go with that offense in that passing game.
Let's move on to the Falcons, the 4th overall pick, and Pete Prisco has them taking Patrick SURTAIN. Now, Ryan, I want to start with you here because you have Caleb Farley as your #1 cornerback in this draft, but also why not a quarterback here? So, Ryan, grade this pick for us.
I like Patrick SURTAIN a lot, but you're right, Amanda. Caleb Farley is my cornerback #1. I think he's a better athlete and better upside. He's a converted wide receiver, so he hasn't played a ton, opted out this year, of course. But Patrick SURTAIN, and Pete will tell you, has the lineage. His dad played in the league for a long time. He was the best cornerback on Alabama, not only this year, but last year on a team that also had Trevon Diggs. But I do have the same question you do, Amanda. There are quarterback concerns with Matt Ryan. He'll play in 2021 because of the contract, but what about after that? And there's still 3 good quarterbacks on the board, and if you're the new head coach and Arthur Smith and you want one, I seem like now would be the time to go get it. You could also get an edge rush help here, but quarterbacks obviously need, and I get why Pete took SURTAIN here. I wouldn't take him this high. I'd be a little nervous about that, but there's no doubt how good a player he was in college, and that should translate at least to the top 15 pick for me once draft day rolls around here.
Yeah, I think he's better than Farley. I think you mentioned it. Farley might have a little bit more athletic ability, but this kid's a natural. And guys rave about him. All the scouts, personnel people I've talked to just rave about him. And he's smooth, and he understands how to play the position, and that's really important for an NFL cornerback. It's not just lining up and playing press man and playing with your athleticism. You got to be able to play all the different styles of defense. And at Alabama, they did a lot of it. And he can play press man. You mentioned it. His father was an outstanding press man corner, and I think that's kind of trickled down. As far as quarterback, I just don't see it. I think Matt Ryan still has good years left in him, and I don't see a quarterback in this spot that would make them better now. It might make them better in 3 or 4 years, but you could wait. You could hold on to Matt Ryan for a couple of years, then come back and get your quarterback next year. So I think they have to bolster the defense. It's been awful for a long time.
Pete, we had BMAC and Will Brinson on yesterday, and they both agree that Matt Ryan is there for at least another year, if not 2 years. All right, let's move on to the Eagles with the 6th overall pick. And Pete, this is where we're starting to get a little bit of oh, sorry, I skipped the Bengals here. I was excited. I scrolled down a little too far. Okay, Bengals, PENEI, SEWELL, Pete. I don't think anybody's going to argue with this because he's absolutely outstanding. So maybe the question here is he going to last this long, all the way to 5?
Yeah, because unless somebody wants to go up and try and get him, look, there are people in the scouting community that don't view him as highly as Twitter Draft Cult does. And Twitter Draft Cult has, glommed onto him for a long time. They've made him their favorite son in this draft class almost. And you talk to the scouts and personnel people, and they say, hey, look, he's got some issues. He didn't play last year for one. He isn't always going to be, one of those guys that's going to just be a brute force kind of player. He's good, very good. Don't get me wrong. He will be a high first-round pick. But there are other tackles in this draft. Christian Darrisaw is another name that's been mentioned out of Virginia Tech. Rashawn Slater, they're right there with him. So, yes, I think this would be a good pick for the Bengals. They need to get help in front of Joe Burrow. They have Jonah Williams at left tackle. Maybe they move him over to the right side and let PENEI SEWELL play the left tackle spot. So, yeah, good pick for the Bengals. But I think Twitter Cult needs to slow their roll on SEWELL. He's not the next coming right now of Anthony Munoz.
He's ready with that finger on the mouse to block everybody in Twitter Draft Cult, as we are now calling it. All right, they may have something to say about this as I try to jump ahead. Let's go to the Eagles at 6 overall. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. And you and I were talking yesterday. You said you're done trying to overthink what the Eagles are trying to do here. But Pete has them taking a guy he just mentioned in Christian Darrisaw. So, Ryan, grade this pick for us.
I know Pete likes Christian Darrisaw a lot, and he's a really athletic left tackle, played at Virginia Tech. He plays angry, and that's a lot. That's what you want in a left tackle. You want someone that's playing from whistle to whistle. I don't mind the pick for the Eagles, but my question is, why are you tanking a game in Week 17 to go from number 9 to number 6 to take an offensive tackle that probably would have been there at number 9, and you have needs everywhere, including quarterback. We don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. Wide receiver is a huge need here. You can certainly go on defense and strengthen the defense that was terrible at times last year. So while I get the pick in terms of helping out whoever the quarterback's going to end up being, I just wonder if there are better players here, namely wide receiver or maybe even quarterback, to help out this Eagles team get better faster.
Well, they drafted Jalen Reagor last year, and they drafted Jalen Hurts last year. I mean, they went wide receiver, quarterback in the first and second round, so I don't think they're going to do that this year. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers victory taught us anything, and it reminded us once again the most important thing in the National Football League, aside from having a franchise quarterback, is be good up front. And I always go back, we can go back to one play that illustrates that. When he threw the touchdown pass to the second touchdown pass to Rob Gronkowski, I'm talking about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, he went back in the pocket, went left, middle, right, and left, and then back to right. And it took forever. And that offensive line is one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, for the improvement of the Tampa Bay Bucs. So when in doubt, always take big people.
All right, let's move to the Lions at 7. Pete Prisco, you have them taking DeVonta Smith here. Wide receiver is a need for them, so why DeVonta Smith and not, say, Jalen Waddle?
Yeah, I think DeVonta Smith's better than Jalen Waddle, and that's in my opinion. I think he's a better player. There is concerns with both of them. Waddle coming off the injury, and Smith being a skinny receiver. And if you go back over history, thin receivers have not done that well in the NFL. It's a lot different than in college. You got big physical corners that jam you and don't allow you to get off the line of scrimmage, and that can be a problem. If you look at history, Deshaun Jackson, smallest receiver, fast, thin, had big years for the Eagles, but you have a bunch of other guys that didn't. Steve Breston, I think, is one of the few guys that weighed under 180 pounds that had a 1,000-yard season aside from Deshaun Jackson in recent years. It's hard for small guys to get off the jam, but I do think he's got explosive ability, and I also think he'll get bigger. He's going to get into the training room and the weight room in the offseason. I bet he goes to camp at about 185, 190 pounds.
All right, let's move on to the Panthers with the 8th overall pick, and I believe Ryan's going to agree with this because he has the same thing in his latest mock draft. That is Justin Fields going to the Panthers. So, Pete, I want to know why you picked this, because I know Ryan said part of the reason is that Justin Fields can chill for a couple years. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if he would chill, because I don't know if they're all in on Teddy Bridgewater. And they clearly made overtures to try and get Matt Stafford, and I think that's been a problem. They're looking around for a quarterback. I think they're going to make a run to maybe go get Deshaun Watson as well. So they're not happy with Teddy Bridgewater. So this is a staff that needs to draft and develop their own guy. I think they always thought Teddy Bridgewater might be a bridge guy, no pun intended, to the next quarterback. Well, the next quarterback needs to come in this draft, and I think Justin Fields would be that guy and make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like Justin Fields a lot, and people on Twitter, to allude to Pete's Twitter cult, get angry when I don't have Justin Fields going number 2 overall. But as Pete did, I had him going number 8, and I think it's a good fit in Carolina. Part of me does wonder, Matt Rule's in the Senior Bowl with his staff, and they coached up Matt Jones, if he might also be in the radar if the Deshaun Watson rumor doesn't work out, which would be fun on another level. But Justin Fields does a lot of things really well. There's a point during the season last year where he had as many touchdowns, 11, as incompletions. Now, he struggled in big games against Indiana and Northwestern. We always talk about that. And those are red flags. And you talk to teams, and they say, well, that's a concern. He struggles sometimes getting off his first read. Sometimes he holds the ball too long. But these are things you can work through as he gets more experience. I have no issue with him going 8 overall to Carolina. I just wouldn't play him immediately.
All right, let's move on to the Broncos, 9th overall pick. Pete, you have them taking Micah Parsons. He opted out, but it doesn't appear, Pete, that this is really going to affect him at all in the draft. So why do you like him with the Broncos?
Well, he's one of those Devin White kind of linebackers. I mean, he can make a lot of plays with that speed and get all over the field. We saw through the playoff run what Devin White meant to the Tampa Bay Bucs, and I think Micah Parsons is that same type of player. If you look at the Broncos, they've lacked that big speed guy at linebacker. I think this would give them the opportunity to get a guy in there who can really fly to the football. There are off-the-field concerns, and that's something that each team is going to have to investigate. He had some issues at Penn State, and will that drop him down a little bit? He's also playing a position position that usually isn't considered of high value, an off-the-ball linebacker. But we've seen in recent years that change a little bit. Devin Bush with the Steelers, Devin White with the Bucks. Guys like that are starting to go higher and higher. So I do think it would make a lot of sense for the Broncos.
All right, Cowboys, number 10, cornerback Caleb Farley, and I believe that is something Cowboys fans would absolutely love Pete Prisco to hear. So why do you like Farley to the Cowboys?
Yeah, and Ryan mentioned it earlier. This kid is an athletic specimen. He can do a lot of different things, and they need so much help on the corner. I mean, it's been a problem for them last year in a big way. They have a couple guys there, and Lewis and Awuzie are going to be free agents. I think they need to address that position, and Farley could come in there and start right away and give them a nice combination with Diggs on the other side, a good young pair of corners. Look, you have to be able to cover in this league, and you have to be able to do it well. So Farley at that spot would make sense. I also think they should look at some defensive linemen. The problem is the defensive line class is not very good this year, particularly when it comes to edge rushers. So I think in this scenario, you give them the corner from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think Pete's exactly right. There are issues, obviously, along the edge, along the defensive line, even offensive tackle you could think about here. But Caleb Farley has a chance to be special, and he's just scratching the surface on what makes him good. And scouts that I've talked to love his game and love his potential. Like I mentioned before, he's a converted wide receiver, so he isn't anywhere close to being where he is going to be down the road. And I think he's a big physical corner, just like Trevon Diggs, as Pete mentioned. And that's two big physical corners in a division that can have to take care of these big wide receivers on the outside. I like the pick, and you know it's not a bad pick because Twitter doesn't yell at me when I have Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain going to the Cowboys at 10 there.
I hopped on a mock draft last night with Cowboys fans, and they got Caleb Farley, and everybody was very happy. So, yes, good job to both of you there. You're making the Twitter cult very excited. All right, guys, hang on. That is 1 through 10. Coming up next, we're going to go 11 through 20. So, Jamar Chase off the board. Devonta Smith off the board. What about Jalen Waddle? How far will he fall? And Pete Prisco's latest mock next. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.